All right, gang. Today we're going to talk about one of the great strong men of all time, and that would be John Cole, who was great because, among other things, he was a great Olympic lifter and power lifter and had outstanding totals in both. So, this is going to come from an article from a Powerlifting USA article from Ron Fernando from 1982. Just going to go right into it. In an age where such mammoth poundages as 900 plus squats and 500 plus bench presses are becoming the rule and not the exception, people, especially some of the younger lifters, tend to forget some of the true giants of the sport who were hoisting that type of iron when no one was doing it. Certainly, George Friend was one of them, but someone who, in my opinion, stood even above Friend, not only because of his higher powerlifting totals, but due to his overall excellence in Olympic lifting and track, was the Arizona Titan John Cole. Cole was, during the early 70s, the premier strongman in the world. I remember a piece that the Arizona Register did on him some 10 years ago, during the time when he was claiming to be the world's strongest man. Ridiculous, I thought as I read it. Who in their right mind would claim to be stronger than Alexiev or the immortal Paul Anderson? I was soon to be proven wrong when Cole set the strength world back on its ears with a world-shattering 2370 total. He wore the equipment of the day, but remember, there were no super suits, super wraps, or power belts back then. For those purists who decry individuals such as Friend, Cole, etc., who were trailblazers for modern powerlifting, let remind you that there are few, if any, lifters today who push to really big numbers without the use of so-called supportive aids. Hey, let some of the armchair experts get under a 600 or 700 pound squat, and I'm sure they would change their minds. At any rate, John's lifting style was nothing short of explosive. I dug up an older copy of a Powerlifting USA when they used to look like a TV supplement in a newspaper, remember? And the print on the Cole article read, despite a tendency to crash and bounce out of the squats, Cole seemed to absolutely rip the weights up. He was worried more about maintaining his image. Yes, Cole has always had an aura of mystery about him and perpetuated this by cultivating a very dramatic beard which set off his tremendous physique. Good God, his arms had veins like battery cables. Additionally, John posted an incredible 1,200 pounds in the Olympic lifting with only a few contests under his belt, and this was broken down into a super easy 430 press, 340 snatch, which was blasted up, and a 430 jerk, which was nothing more than a push jerk, during a period of time when Ken Patera's 1,300 total was numero uno in the USA. And don't forget, Patera was a specialist in Olympic lifting. Puri Rater of Ironman magazine said, after many years of looking, we finally may have a man to challenge the might of the Russians in this super heavyweight class. This is a man of enormous body power, a true champion in another field, John Cole. I even had the nerve to write to John when I was 19 to ask him advice, and to my great surprise, I received a letter with the Arizona State Sun Devil logo on it. At that time, John was the head strength coach at ASU, stating that I should call him, collect, and talk to him about a training schedule. More on that later. His coaching position was not some hokey job invented by a promoter to give some credibility outside his lifting. During the years when John was associated with Arizona State, they produced such athletes as Danny White, Dallas quarterback, Woody Green, 1973 consensus All-American, Mark Murrow, 300-plus foot javelin thrower, Ben Hawkins, Calvin Demery, Windlin Hall, John Jefferson, Bob Bruning, etc. The list could go on forever, sounding like a who's who for the NFL and NBA, and not to mention Mr. October Reggie Jackson, Sal Bando, Rick Monday, Gary Gentry, Bump Wills, and a host of other fine baseball players. John's methods were brutally simple. Basically, he advocated free weights over machines, and this was at a time when Arthur Jones's Nautilus machines were spreading like wildfire through the country. And unlike other so-called strength coaches who derived most of their information from the library, John was a living, breathing testament to his athletic principles. He had the AAU football players so psyched up on the iron that they would actually train during the season, which was rare in those days. I remember talking to Benny Malone at a contest in Arizona some time ago, and he told me that Cole had them doing two pressing movements and a leg movement the night prior to a game. They literally massacred their competition. Scores like 48 to 6, 60 to nothing, etc., were commonplace to Sun Devil fans. And it was largely due to the fact that ASU totally dominated football and the University of Arizona did the same number in basketball that the two Arizona schools left for the Pac-10. Cole emphasized strict form in all of his movements, pause bench presses, deep squats, etc. If you couldn't do the moves correctly and didn't want to learn, your butt was booted out of the ASU weight room pronto. Basic moves such as squats, bench press, inclines, upright rows, tricep presses, both lying and standing, power cleans, military presses, and calf raises were the staple of Cole's programs for the ASU athletes. He outlined the program specifically for each event in track also. And in the years when John left, their total athletic team suffered. Of course, there is a subject of his own training, and I have never seen John train, but I've known others who have. Would you believe 2 days per week for 6 to 8 hours at a crack? Yep, John would train only twice per week with the likes of Pat Neve, former 181-pound bench press record holder, Jack Barnes, Mike Matuzik, Mike Chevalier, Billy Superstar Graham, Marvin Allen, and teenage phenom Randy Collett at Granny Thorbeck's Double Car Garage Gym in Scottsdale. And you'll see him with the Thorbeck shirt on in quite a few pictures. John would usually start his workout with the bench press and perform 12 sets with 2 or 3 warm-ups, 5 sets of 2 to 3 reps with heavy weight, and then some pump sets. Following the benches, he would attack the squats, and I do mean attack. To see Cole squat is to witness a true athletic explosion personified. He advocated the pyramid system in all of his lifting, which he would cycle according to personal feel, and additionally, he had a lot of his lifters and ball players performing true power squats. At that time, people were still squatting using the old Olympic stance. John proved that one could handle significantly more weight by changing the stress points from the knees to the hips and back. And he was the first man to officially squat 900 and for years had the highest super heavyweight total around. Actually, John was not a natural super. Standing 5'10", he hadn't the height necessary for carrying 330 pounds like Round JoJo White, Kennedy, Kaz, etc. His deadlifts were awesome, especially since he worked on them only once a month. On the other days, John would do either power snatches or the clean and press movement, where each rep is cleaned separately and then pressed. The incline bench was another favorite of Cole's, who reportedly inclined over 500 in his prime. He would usually follow a workout with several sets of tricep presses, and he was capable of an overhead tricep press with 315, and curls, plus several sets of toe raises. He would actually work out Tuesday and then again on Friday, and this is the same system many of the lifters in Arizona are still using today. He became a successful businessman with his own health club, John Cole Systems, in Scottsdale, and is now strength consultant to the Phoenix Suns, Phoenix Roadrunners, and many professional athletes residing in the area. As for the system he passed along to me, I still use a lot of the same methods and heartily advocate it to anyone. Basically, it involves viewing the workout cycle as not being on a weekly cycle, but that of a bi-monthly one. People think too chronologically. That's why they feel old at a certain numerical age, when they feel great the year before. At any rate, the 2-week cycle goes something like this. And I'm gonna post the actual workout here. As seen, a very interesting mixture of the Power 3 and key assistance moves. John liked to cycle the inclines and the benches as well as the front squats. Lots of arm work, but strangely enough, no direct delt or lat work. Oh well, you can't argue with the results. A KG Las Vegas promoter offered John somewhere in the neighborhood of 18 grand a week to lift in a show, a platform loaded with a bevy of Vegas showgirls. Catch was that he had to be a bona fide world champion. Unfortunately, John sustained a mysterious injury to his right knee prior to his departure for the World's Championships in York, PA. Controversy still surrounds Cole because some say that he ducked competition, specifically with Cuck and Williams, and only performed his record lifts on his home turf. He did officially win the 242s with a 2085 total against McCormick, Phillips, Marin, etc., and these gentlemen could certainly be classified as fine competition. Anyway, John is in semi-retirement now, but still has that tremendous physique, has little time to train due to his business commitments. Yet I was told that not too long ago he was able to come out of the office and ram up an easy set of 5 with 450 on the bench press. And this is after a 7-month layoff. So the legend of John Cole lives on, and I'm going to cut it off there so as not to have a ridiculously long video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll consider subscribing.